I went to art school, and it wasn't so clear about what direction of art school. I did a foundation. I loved Michelangelo. I like drawing. I really like drawing. I like quite traditional things, and I did choose fine art, and I chose a course that was very open because I couldn't decide between sculpture and painting, and I think that is sort of significant. You can see in what I do, it's something in between. And so I got going with on that course, and it was actually on when I did fine art that I sort of came across pressing things in clay. So that's the beginning of what I do now in a way. What I was doing at college did have a sort of concept, an idea, and exploration, and to some extent it was some degree of therapy. I had a very challenging time in my first year of college because I was confronted with someone very close to me was going to die, which doesn't happen to every 19-year-old, and it was something I couldn't talk about. And I found solace in plants growing. So I'd always grown plants. I liked artists that worked with plants, that had sort of always been there. Spent my childhood probably, go play in the garden. That's it. Didn't watch that much telly. But when this happened to me, I looked to plants as I think I was reading Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, and some of the images in that were plants growing everywhere, taking over. And when I saw plants growing in houses that had been derelict or coming up through the tarmac, just that sort of power of nature to survive and to carry on, that circle, I found that very comforting. So what I did for my degree show in the last year was I was growing plants in unusual places, which they were. I even tried growing mustard seeds in my ear. I mean, I was a student, and I didn't have the patience for it to last, but I quite like the idea. I mean, it's probably a lot to do with mortality. I mean, what happens when you die? The plants go through your body. It's a bit of memento mori. I think what I'm doing is permanent, and I want to make something that is ephemeral into something permanent. To halt it, to stop it, or just, they're so beautiful, you want to capture it, you want to have it. It's like pinning. It's terrible, but it's a bit like pinning a butterfly. We're very acquisitive human beings, and maybe it's just wanting to be involved. You get very nice things happen. So I tend to sort of wrap my clay up when I finished it, and what's left behind, the debris from the plants, sometimes seeds, and they germinate. There's something quite miraculous and magical about opening up the clay and there's something come alive. What I found interesting was this whole world of nature printing, which I hadn't really come across before. Botanists had done this. Obviously you'd get illustrations, botanical illustrations. This is pre-photography, obviously, but biologists who want to record the plants, want to notate them, they put ink on the plants and press it on paper, and you'd have a nature print. I thought it was really interesting. You move through the world of nature printing, and you even have Benjamin Franklin. It was one of the first sort of uses for money in America. They started off using leaf, cast from leaves, because they're hard to fake, hard to counterfeit. So there is a very interesting history for the world of nature printing. But I couldn't find any casts like mine. So mine's a cast, really, not a print. I think like when I was 19 and I wanted to use plants, and that maybe was the beginning of it. For me then, when faced with a very sad time, and that basically death, and perhaps a 19 doesn't usually get faced with that. It doesn't become a burning issue, but it was. And for me at that point, the fact that nature's always there, you'll always see it, was very reassuring. Now, will nature be there? Is it reassuring? Is it worrying? But certainly celebrating nature and encouraging people to care about it, that has to be a good thing.